Hello, everybody. Ariya, Massoudi, and Ferrante. You here for another Seminole Sidelines. We are very far apart here on this Friday afternoon. I am in Iowa City, Iowa, getting ready for the NCAA Tournament first round for the women's basketball tournament, and Bob and Tally getting set to cover some FSU baseball later this afternoon. Noles and Eagles of Boston College, 3 p.m. They will be at Hauser, moved up due to some weather. And then women's basketball, 1:30 p.m. And they're taking on the 10th seeded UGA Bulldogs, the Noles, the 7 seed, 1:30 p.m. That's on ESPN. To Bob, early thoughts. We'll start with women's basketball and make our way to baseball. Some big news coming out of the Florida State women's basketball locker room earlier this week.
Yeah, really unfortunate news to hear that Tania Latson won't be able to play. Ariya Gordon also won't be able to play. So the Seminoles, obviously there's a lack of scoring that you have when you remove Tania Latson from the equation. OMG also, one of your top guards, one of your better distributors. So I think how much pressure does that put on Sarah Bajeti to be not just a scorer, but she's a great defender. She has to be a great distributor. Ton of pressure on Sarah Bajeti, and she wants to kind of close out her Florida State career on a strong note. But injuries happen in sports. It's just really a big bummer to have it happen this late in the year for Florida State women's basketball team that has played so incredibly well all year. I know you've tracked them, throughout. They've been fun to watch at home. Only one loss. So I've seen a lot of wins here in Tallahassee. Away from Tallahassee, it just hasn't gone so well. But obviously hoping that Florida State can pull one out against Georgia on Friday afternoon.
It'll be interesting. Obviously a All-American that Latson is, and not having her, especially, with Ariya Gordon as well, who, stepped in admirably in the ACC tournament against Wake Forest with Tania missing that game as well. So now you're down basically your two main ball handlers. You're right. Sarah Bajeti's going to have to step up, and I think she's ready for the task. Taylor O'Brien going to get into that starting lineup, I think, and give Florida State a chance. You got to remember she was a over 1,000-point scorer at Bucknell, and so she's been waiting, to kind of have that breakout performance for Florida State since the injury that she had, and so looking forward to seeing how she does. But again, KK Timpson's going to have to be huge. Valencia Myers is going to have to give you good minutes. Jazz Massengill's going to have to give you good minutes. Aaron Howard's going to have to hit a couple of threes for you, and it's going to be a total team effort. But Brooke Wyckoff's been preaching this all year to her team. Everything that you need is in that locker room, and they have experience playing 7 or 8 players. And so I don't think that they'll be intimidated by any stretch of the imagination. This is still an older group on the court that I think has, a lot of fifth-year seniors that have been in NCAA tournaments, and they're ready. I think they're excited. This is, the season has been a success, and Tania Latson's a big part of that. But I think the season belongs to that entire locker room, and kudos and congratulations should go to that entire locker room for, 12 ACC wins and 23 overall wins. They were picked to finish 9th in the league, and they tie for 4th, to end the season. So Brooke Wyckoff's done an incredible job. Georgia's going to be a tough out, and I think, the Dogs are playing at a high level to end the season. I think they had like a 5 or 6 game win streak, and recently I looked up their results. Their only 2 real losses are to South Carolina and LSU, who are both, favorites to make the Final Four. South Carolina favorite to win it all. So the Noles are here in Iowa City. It's been snowing, it's sleeting, it's been cold, but the team got to see Creed earlier yesterday, and I think they're feeling pretty good seeing Michael B. Jordan's movie there about boxing and being an underdog and fighting back. And so I think it was a good idea by the coaching staff to send the ladies to see that movie, and we're ready. We're ready. Caitlin Clark and the Iowa Hawkeyes await on Sunday if we can get by the Dogs, but we're excited. Bob, what can you say though about the job that Coach Wyckoff has done, win or lose, because this season has been an incredible success based on the projections that everybody had for them coming in?
We've always talked in sports how hard it is to take over coaching, for a legend. And Sue Semrau is a legend in this sport. I'm old enough to remember where Florida State women's basketball was before Sue Semrau arrived, and got to cover Brooke a little bit in her college career. So it's been fun to kind of watch those two grow together on the court, and Brooke realized that she was into coaching. That was something that she had a passion for, and that Coach Semrau was able to cultivate that. I think, again, Brooke having that 1 year, that COVID year, really taught her a lot about the day-to-day on court, managing the personalities, and Sue was handling some of the recruiting at that point, so it wasn't all on Brooke's shoulders right away. But now, when it was time, I remember sitting in Brooke's office in July and thinking to myself, this is probably the most comfortable first year coach I've sat down. She didn't feel nervous. There wasn't a lot of, oh, I wonder how this is going to play out. It's, I know the personalities on the roster. These transfers are girls who I've known and brought in. The high school prospects are girls I know. And it's because she was there. I think she has comfort in those relationships. Maybe we shouldn't have been so surprised by how Florida State women's basketball played this year. The one small thing that I would say, not as a criticism, it's just this team hasn't been able to finish the season the way that they would like. They would like to be better at how they play four quarters, how they finish games, how they defend, how they rebound, kind of those structural hallmarks of a Semrau Wyckoff team. But honestly, from where we were analyzing this team in October to now, I think it's truly, really exceeded our expectations.
Without a doubt. And I think they would all like to be finishing the season a little bit stronger, and being able to get a dub, against the Dogs would be big. They've never beaten Georgia, I believe, in all-time series history. I think the Dogs are 8-0, FSU being 0-8 against UGA all time. And I think we have a loss against them in the NCAA tournament not that long ago, maybe about 10 years ago, if I remember or recall correctly. So it'd be nice to win at Hawkeye Carver Arena and, get that first round win. And so that would be huge for the Noles if they could do that. And so, and now we're interested to see how they play without Miss Latson, without Miss Gordon. They've got a team that's capable of doing it. So that's going to be what I'm looking forward to the most, Bob. But they're going to have to rely, don't you think, on a Sarah Bajetti, on a Jazz Massengill, and KK Timpson's going to have to be phenomenal for them against the Dogs.
Yeah, I think we've seen a lot of games where Aaron Howard has come out of the gate really strong, taking a three-pointer. This team has a veteran comfort in addition to some of these younger role players. I think it's great to have a Jazz Massengill who's very aware of what Georgia puts out there. Jazz has played an SEC schedule. She's faced South Carolina. She's faced Georgia. There's not the, oh, wow, we're going to have to face a big-time SEC school. I think just having that kind of veteran presence up and down the roster. You mentioned Taylor O'Brien. I think a young lady that we almost, I won't say overlook, but the way she started the season was very, very hot as far as how she was producing, and then had some injury issues of her own before coming back. There is a lot of quality in what will be an 8-person rotation. It's tough, but nobody seems to embrace that maybe smaller rotation than a Brooke Wyckoff, than a Sue Semrau. They've really liked to have those smaller core groups. And again, with this experience, they've all played in NCAA tournaments. Except a couple of the newcomers, right? They've all kind of been there. This isn't going to be an awestruck kind of experience. So I think that can be very, very valuable when it's time to just be in that crunch moment of, okay, how is this possession going to work out? Oh, it's going to work out just the way we've done it, practice after practice and game after game.
So, 1:30 p.m. Eastern time on ESPN2. It'll be 12:30 local time here from Iowa City. And I'll be on the call for radio alongside my friend Melissa Bruner. And you can watch the TV broadcast there nationally as well. So Florida State, they've made the NCAA tournament 10 straight years, one of only 8 programs to do that in college basketball. That is a testament to Sue Semrau and Brooke Wyckoff. I don't know if a lot of people remember, but Brooke Wyckoff, interim head coach during the COVID year and got Florida State to the NCAA tournament to extend that streak. So this is her first one officially as the head coach of the Seminoles, but she has tournament experience as well as a head coach. So Noles and Dogs, ACC, SEC, and it's the NCAA tournament first round for women's basketball. Transitioning over to baseball, the Link Jarrett-led Noles hosting Boston College this weekend. We mentioned 3 o'clock start time today, Friday, so not that long from when this show's airing. Will be first pitch from Hauser, 7 p.m. on Saturday. I believe that's on ACC Network National. And then Sunday is a getaway day for Boston College. Game moved up to 11:30 a.m. So brunch with the Noles from Hauser. Bob, this is a Seminole team that's reeling a little bit. You know, if I use that word accurately, 3-game losing streak. Wasn't all that impressive against UCF this week, midweek down in Orlando. Got shellacked in game 1, and in game 2 didn't quite have the offense, which is something we've seen all year. They've got to figure things out here, you know, and Boston College is a much, much better team than people are giving them credit for. They have wins over Tennessee. They've got 2 wins at Virginia Tech. So they're going to be ready to rock, I think, against the Seminoles this weekend. And they've got some offensive talent too, but the Noles desperately need 2 wins at least this weekend at Hauser.
Yeah, if you're thinking back to the old Boston College teams, this is not them. They're number 1 in the RPI, D1 baseball. So this is a program that's to be respected for who they have on the roster, who they have beaten. You know, for Florida State, pitching and defense were going to kind of be the big storylines for this team. The defense hasn't exactly backed up a pitching staff that really needed some stellar defense to help kind of get them out of some jams here and there. And, you know, we've seen a higher number of errors than I think any of us had expected. We thought a Link Jarrett team might be a little bit cleaner. It's just been unfortunate the way a lot of these plays have just kind of gotten away from Florida State. Throw down a second, throw off the mark at first. Just can't grab a ball in the outfield when you're pretty much right there. We did see Trayton Rank had some great diving grabs, you know, down at Orlando too. So it's not all bad. It's just not as good as it maybe could be because the pitching staff is just so thin. I mean, I was looking at Ariya today, 11 guys for Florida State that they've leaned on. Their core kind of 11 pitchers who have thrown more than 2 appearances. They just don't have confidence in that kind of developmental part of the pitching roster yet to kind of throw those guys out there. They're kind of leaning on the Ryan Dennison, the Andrew Armstrong. There's a core group of guys that I think they're going to have to lean on until some of those younger pitchers can really develop and just gain confidence in themselves to where the coaches will say, okay, we can throw you out there. For now, it's going to be just a tough row for Florida State, especially against this schedule. A lot of ranked games in a row.
I'm on mute, guys. So welcome back. You would think, right, that I would know how to do this. That's what happens when you're producing and hosting at the same time a show. But anyway, yeah, to your point, scheduling is not going to be forgiving for Florida State. The ACC's loaded, and I don't know. I just don't know that you have answers on this pitching staff right now. Certainly, you know, Wyatt Crowell's your best arm. You'll have him available this weekend. Whitaker, I don't think, threw extended against UCF, so you should have him available this weekend in some critical moments. And then they just got to find some answers. You know, is a Jamie Arnold an answer there for you? Can Dennison give you good innings? Oxford did not do well in his start. Maybe that's not the role for him. Maybe he's more of a matchup arm that comes in and gets you lefty outs instead of having to start games off for you as an opener type. Joe Charles, you know, there's some word coming out that he's going to be available this weekend potentially, and that's a premier recruit and talent that was throwing mid-90s, you know, when he transferred from UNC. So there are options, right? Army, Andrew Armstrong's got to give you something. And I could legitimately list the entire staff because they have to use the entire staff right now. And so there are options there. You need good starts this weekend. You know, Baumeister's going to need to continue to take steps forward. Crowell has to still be Wyatt and kind of lock down Saturday and make you feel good. And then Sunday, the curious case of Carson Montgomery. They're believing in him, right? They're sticking with him right now. And then they're trying to instill confidence in that kid. He's still just 20 years old, Bob. I think people forget he's not old enough to go into a bar legally right now and drink. So, and he's a junior in college. So he came in early, he came in younger. And I think, you're just hoping that it clicks because that talent is as good as it comes, right? Like if Carson Montgomery clicked, and it was best case scenario, you're talking about a top 5 overall pick because the fastball is 97 to 98. And the slider's major league level good. And he's got athleticism and ability and projectability. It just hasn't clicked for him, in 3 years. So will it happen against the Eagles? Possibly. This could be a good weekend for him, but the Noles need him. And I think at this point, that's kind of where FSU is with its pitching staff. BC can hit, Bob. They can really, really swing the sticks. It's an older group. Joe Vitrano can really hit. Travis Honeyman can really hit. They're going to give FSU a problem, man. It would not shock me if the Eagles won the series. They are that kind of good. And they're already confident, as we mentioned, beating Tennessee on the road and then going to VT, who was one of the favorites in the ACC Coastal this year, and winning 2 there. So this is a big weekend for the Noles. That offense, can they get Diamez Ross or McGuire Holbrook a couple at bats this weekend? How close are they to getting some swings? They could be another weekend away, but those are all my storylines going in. And this FSU team, more than anything, here's your main storyline. You need 2 wins.
Yeah, and do you feel – I think you feel good anytime Wyatt Crowell is going out there. I mean, that Saturday game is going to feel like no matter how Friday goes down, you feel like you've got a best chance, your best guy on the mound on Saturday to win that game. I like what I'm seeing from Jackson Baumeister too, because he seems like, what are we, 5, 6 starts into his career now? It feels like he's building. He's not throwing deep into games, but really you would take 5 quality innings from Jackson right now. And then let's see what Carson does on Sunday, because if he can give you just anything where he can keep the control, like you said, his stuff is incredible. Outside of Wyatt, does he have easily the second best, just pure stuff among the pitchers? I think it's there. And if he does get it, if he does click, it's going to be something that I think is going to be a huge confidence and momentum boost for this team. I'm with you. I think they are sticking with Carson. I'd also argue I'm not sure there's anybody else who's really pushing Carson. And that's, don't mean that truly as a negative. There's a lot of young pitchers who you might say, well, eventually somebody this season could be pushing Carson. But for now, I think he's probably your best option to go out there and from inning 1, eat 4 to 5 innings. That's what they have to have. We've all talked about this as a staff. You guys have talked about it on Sunday Golds. Link is really creative in how he wants to get to that 27th out. He doesn't really care if the starter goes 2 innings, but every pitching appearance has to be efficient. You've got to get something out of every opportunity that you get with a guy on the mound. We just need to see more efficiency from these guys, not just Carson Montgomery, but it's up and down the roster. We did see a really good outing down in Orlando from a Ben Barrett. Ryan Dennison had some control issues, but it was a decent outing. I mean, these are growth opportunities. Sometimes we don't want to think about that Florida State has to be in a position to grow pitchers. You'd want the program to be a little bit farther ahead, but it's just where you are after you lose, a Parker Messick, a Davis Hare, a Jonas Scalaro. You've just got to find those next guys who can fill various roles.
Yeah, without a doubt. So Seminoles will look at 3 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 11:30 this weekend to try and be able to get another ACC series win, this time against Boston College, coming at Hauser. All right, Bob, well, I think it's a pretty good show here for today. Quick, to the point. I want to thank those of you watching on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitter. We were not able to go live today. This is a recording as Bob and I will be covering obviously other sports going on during our 12:30 usual Friday Seminole Sidelines time. But you can listen to Florida State women's basketball against the Dogs on the Leaderfield Sports Network. And make sure you check with the Osceola.com for coverage all weekend long from Hauser as well. So those of you who want to listen to this podcast on demand, we're on Apple, we're on Spotify, and everywhere else you get your favorite podcast. Bob, we'll talk to you soon, my man.
Take care. Enjoy the basketball and safe travels.
All right. Well, I'm Ariya Massoudi for Bob Ferrante, and this was Seminole Sidelines.